So I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with the marketplace Etsy. They got started in 2005 as a place to find handmade items, vintage items, and craft supplies. And what started as a pretty modest small business and marketplace quickly grew into a much larger enterprise over the last 20 years. The company is now publicly traded, and over the years they've certainly run into their fair share of lawsuits and complaints. Over their first few years of existence, they always had these community rules in place about selling products that are actually handmade, although they had really vague guidelines around this stuff. And really starting to ramp up in the early 2010s, they had a lot of issues around complaints of fraud. One big issue in 2012, which I'm showing here from this Wall Street Journal article, where a lot of folks were saying that these quote-unquote handmade goods were actually just mass-produced in factories. And after a lot of this public pressure around the types of goods that are available to be sold and bought on Etsy, the leadership team basically folded in 2013 and hosted a town hall meeting to announce that Etsy would permit factory-made goods and drop shipping, which really opened the floodgates for a lot of products to be sold on Etsy. Now that has really evolved into their creativity standards, which you can find on their website today, which shows you all the different classifications of the types of products that are sold on the marketplace. So everything that is made by the seller, which can indicate a more handmade item, all the way to something that is sourced by the seller, which could be something that is just completely drop shipped and imported from a foreign country. And they've also had a lot of issues with potential counterfeit goods on their marketplace as well. Even their own investors have filed class action suits against the company, claiming a lot of their goods that are sold on the marketplace are actually counterfeit. Now, obviously, this will happen on pretty much any buyer-seller marketplace on the internet. I am not saying Etsy is necessarily the worst actor in this space, but it's definitely an issue that you should probably be aware of if you're looking to buy a lot of goods on this marketplace, and in particular, looking for stuff that's handmade and American-made. So with all of that context, as you can imagine, it's getting tougher and tougher to find truly made in the USA stuff on Etsy and really sift through a lot of the other goods and sellers on the marketplace to really find that true American-made stuff. And unfortunately, Etsy doesn't necessarily do a great job, in my opinion, of highlighting a lot of the American-made stuff, or really just what's from and made in each location. They have a few pages on their site that highlight local shops in whatever country you are visiting their site from. So as an example, shops in the US here, but that's pretty much where the localization stops. They don't have any searching or filtering for made in the USA goods, anything that's potentially made on a more local level, like your state or city, or any other really helpful tools for identifying this stuff. Now, I'll do a couple of example searches here for y'all to give you a couple of tips on some things that could point you in the right direction of American-made stuff. Now, we've done a simple search for dinnerware here on Etsy. If you just click on a couple of these listings, you'll see a few product details that can hint at where these products are made. So it's not going to be right here when you click on the page. You'll have to scroll down, learn more about this item on the right-hand side, and you can potentially see some information that's listed from the seller on where that product is made. But oftentimes, there really isn't going to be a ton of additional information here. The only real piece of info that Etsy is going to give you is the ship from location. So you can see that this dinnerware set is shipped from Turkey, so obviously not made in the US. Now, to narrow that down to stuff that does ship from the US, you can use their filters on the left-hand side here of search results and then choose under ships from and then United States. And then that's going to give you the stuff that's at least shipping from the US, although that doesn't guarantee that it's an American made. So you really have to look at the local shop and see where are they potentially producing their goods? Are they mentioning anything about being made in the USA? And really doing your own research there. What you're really going to have to do is just go a little bit further in your search criteria. So what I like to do is just put American made or made in the USA next to whatever product type that I'm searching for in the search bar. Make sure you hit that ships from United States filter button at the very top, and then you can look at some of these goods here. So I'm just doing a more general search here just to give you all an example, but we'll click on a couple of results here and then look at the specific seller pages so that I can show you all the details to potentially look for when you're shopping on this marketplace. So here we have an iron freestanding coat rack from a company called Urban Forge. What I am going to do first is really make sure that the ships from location is accurate and within the US, just based on the filter that we used in search results. And then what I'm also going to do is click on the seller's profile. On the seller profile, you can do a couple of things. The first thing that you can do is contact them, so you can actually message them on the Etsy platform and ask questions about the origin of a lot of their products, which can help you confidently say that some are made in the US or maybe they're not. And what you can also do is look at their About section on their seller profile. So we're looking at Urban Forge here, and I'm just going to click Read More here. And then you can clearly kind of see the story of the origin of a lot of their products and where a lot of them are made. So you can see these folks are in the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas, and that they are really touting American craftsmanship for a lot of their products. And for these really unique metalwork pieces, chances are that they are actually handmade by single artisans in their shop. What you can also do is look at the external links that they have on their profile. So Urban Forge has links out to all of their social profiles as well as their official website. Now, if it's a smaller seller, they may not have a lot of these, but you can always check to see if they have any other places where you can do more investigation. So when we go to the Urban Forge website, I just went to their Our Story page, which is linked here in the footer. Typically, you can find an About Us page or an Origins page or something like that in their website footer or their navigation header up here. But you can see here we have a YouTube video kind of covering their production process, which is in the US, and then a lot of language around being American made, which is great to see. Now, their Instagram profile also says American made, so at this point I'm feeling pretty confident that Urban Forge is indeed American made. But in order to have complete certainty, what I would probably do is contact these folks through Etsy or through their official website. So Etsy really doesn't make it that easy to find the Made in the USA stuff. So just because they tout being a seller of a lot of handmade and vintage and craft items, still make sure to do your research and really try and find out the country of origin for any product that you're looking for on that marketplace. All right, y'all, that's it for this one. As always, thanks for supporting your country and shopping American made, and I will see y'all next time.